And how much time do you have just so I can time these
An
questions
hour.
and not?
We got till 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Is that
And
even?
you're,
I can't tell. Is that even?
oh, yes.
Okay, cool.
It looks great. You look lean and mean.
Yeah, that's where I am now, baby. I feel healthier.
All right. I'll jump into it then if you're good.
I'm ready to rock.
This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com. And today I have one of my most requested interviews ever since I started doing this about 5 years ago. He is a three-time WCW World Champion, WWE Hall of Famer, the founder of DDPY and the DDPY app. He's in several movies. The man himself, Diamond Dallas Page. How are you doing today, sir?
Hannibal, I am unstoppable. that's my word for the last 3 years now. Unstoppable.
I believe it. And let's get on into it right away. You have a new movie coming out, Relentless. It might even already be out now. I watched the trailer for it earlier today, and it seems to be about your life and your journey into the creation of this DDPY. Could you start by telling us a bit about this movie?
Well, for starters, it's not out yet. It'll probably be out in the next couple of weeks, and it'll show up on Amazon Prime. And we originally were just starting to piece together just so many amazing things that happened, with our company, and we really were putting it together originally to show people that they came to our website, like who we were and what we do, and what we're about. And then the more we gathered different information and interviews and stuff, my business partner Steve Yu, who also was the director of the Resurrection of Jake the Snake. And if you haven't seen the Resurrection of Jake the Snake, then you got to go to Amazon Prime and pull it up. Please leave a review. Um, it's going to be probably one of the most powerful documentaries you've ever seen. But back over to Relentless, um, there was so many really amazing things that came through this thread as we were putting this documentary together that it just took on a life of its own and became a really inspirational video. And that's really what we do when we're putting together videos or documentaries. We're trying to inspire people. If you go all the way back to our first video that went viral, and that was disabled veteran Arthur Borman. He's 5'6", 297 pounds. He had not been able to walk without his knee braces, back brace, and wraparound canes for 15 years. And during that video, you see him lose a ridiculous amount of weight with 140 pounds. But forget the losing the weight. He lost his knee braces, his back brace, and his canes, not just to walk, but run. And when Steve Yu first did that video, he sent it to me. I was like, bro, you didn't put ddpyoga.com anywhere in there. And he said, yeah. He goes, I read the first 3 chapters of a book of how to get a video to go viral. And I go, what's viral? He goes, well, people start to share it. Now remember, this is in 2011. So I knew about sharing, but I really didn't. I never heard of the word viral. And he said, we have two choices. Because one of the things I learned in that book, if you're trying to advertise something, people aren't going to share it. He goes, and this story is so amazing. There's two things. We can either make it a commercial or we can try to inspire people. I said, let's inspire people. And God, it didn't happen the first 2 days, but by the time it got to that sixth, seventh day, it took off like crazy. And it literally put our company on the map, never mentioning DDP yoga, which was pretty crazy. And because people just sought it out. And that was the beginning of it. So that's that little piece is in there with Relentless, and then there's so many other things. And what's really interesting, being one of the boys, you'll appreciate this. Um, we had this documentary ready to go a year ago today. Like a year ago, we were ready. Like we could have put it out, and we got so inundated with all the things that was happening that we didn't do it. And I was kind of not annoyed, but I was like annoyed with myself. Why the hell did we put this out there so people can see what it's about? And then I did the thing with AEW where I shot the angle with Max, and then I mean, the first time I've been on TNT TV in 19 years. And in the beginning of Relentless, we show where I blow my back out, and I'm told by three spine specialists, I'm never going to wrestle again. And that was 21 years ago. And now here I am 19 years later after the last time I was on TNT, and I'm back again. And then the next 2 weeks later, I wrestle. You know, the reaction was so insane. And when I got in that ring and looked like Jake Roberts texts me, no ring rust? WTF? He goes, you look like you did back in the day, which it wasn't that good, but it was still really good. But when I went off that top rope, that like changed everything. That was all Cody. So I thought that next day, that's why we didn't release it, because that has to be in here. And then we had to figure out how we tell the story and how we pull it together. And we had done interviews coming right up to this, right up to that night, because, at 63, actually 3 months from 64, I got in my head a little bit, and it wasn't positive affirmations. And I had to get that garbage out of my head and have it just full of positive affirmations to go out there and deliver. And it was amazing. It couldn't have gone any better. And I thought that's got to be at the end of that movie. And we brought Cody in to talk, and it was awesome. Awesome.
Do you think you're ever going to have an official retirement match, or are you just going to keep going forever for special occasions?
I think that was my retirement match. I mean, I really do. Could Cody talk me into something? Could WWE talk me into something? Maybe, but I doubt it. Because the bottom line is, Hannibal, you're one of the boys. Like, how do I follow that? It's like I don't want it to be like Die Hard was one of the greatest movies ever. I'm a big Christmas fan. I'm watching all my Christmas movies. My house looks like a winter wonderland. Like you've never seen someone's inside of their house look like this. I blow Macy's away. At the end of Die Hard, it all builds to all the explosions and amazing payoff at the end. And then they did Die Hard 2 and 3, and a lot of times they shot their load too early, and it was like, it wasn't as good as that. So I don't know. Cody's a pretty smart cat. So if he comes to me with something, I'll entertain it for sure. But I gotta say, man, I don't know how you do any better, going out, especially for Relentless. Like it starts out with me getting told my career's over. And the beauty of what happens on AEW that night, the beauty is when I get in that ring and I start moving, it proves everything that I say about my program. Like, I'm going to be 64 and I'm still moving as good as just about any of these young guys. So, for me to do that, it was it was a lot of fun, you know.
And you talked about your resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts. There's three wrestlers that come to mind that I just wonder if you think they're. I know you don't think anyone's hopeless, but Marty Jannetty, Sonny, and Buff Bagwell are three wrestlers that seem to be on a really scary path. What would you suggest to those three if you could talk to them? I know they're individual cases, but overall.
I tried to talk to Sonny, you know. I've talked to Sonny. Um, and she's a sweetheart. She's always been super sweet to me. And, you know, I when it came to Jake and Scott, it was kind of different. Like I got a lot of calls on a lot of different people. Like Marty Jannetty, uh, I've only met him a couple of times, and I always liked him. But someone's got to really want to. They got to want to change. And not that Scott Hall ever wanted to quit drinking, but he sure as hell didn't want to be in the spot that he's, you know, where he was, you know. And Scotty's in such a better spot than he ever was, even though he's fallen down a couple times. He gets back up and he gets on the path that's going to keep him alive and feeling better. Um, Buff, I've talked to numerous times, and like Buff's someone's close to me, and he's right here. But you know, again, I've seen Buff go completely sober and super clean for months at a time. But I just saw he just sent me pictures of the accident that he was in, and he literally asked me to call him today, and I'm gonna. I called him yesterday. Um, I'm not really like the rehab guy for booze or pills or that stuff. I'm not that guy. I'm not a rehab guy. I just was helping Jake and Scott, and it started with Jake because without Jake, I always say without Dusty Rhodes, there is no Diamond Dallas Page. Without Jake the Snake Roberts, there's no three-time world champion. And without the both of them, I'm never in the Hall of Fame. Like both of those guys really helped me a lot. And it was just being there for me, believing in me. And that's why I always tell people never underestimate the power you give someone by believing in them. And Dusty, he never believed in me as a wrestler early on. He believed in me as a manager, a color commentator, a producer. I mean, he brought me to booking meetings, all that stuff. I mean, I learned the business from the bottom up from Yoda, from Dusty. And I consider Dusty the Yoda of wrestling. And Jake is the Yoda of ring work. Like Jake freaking, he lived with me back 30 years ago. Yeah, 28 years ago, he lived with me the first time. And he stayed with me until he lost a 12-foot black cobra in my bathroom and then disappeared for 3 days. But, I tried to help Jake many times before he finally wanted to be helped. And that's the whole thing. You really got to want to make the change. And Jake didn't want to make the change originally. Jake just wanted to die. Didn't want to kill himself, because he already caused his family enough pain. He wanted just to die. And I sent him that video of Arthur Mormon. And he's like, did he really do that? You're telling me that's not a work? I'm like, bro, that's as real can be, man. His son videoed him and everything. And he said, well, send it to me and I'll try it. So I sent it to him and he told me he was looking through it and he was, figuring out. I told him how to use a chair and, he said, I'll give it a shot. I said, well, if you're going to really give it a shot and you really do it, I want to come down and film you. I want to get you where you are right now so we can see how bad. And I never thought he was as bad as Jake was at the time. I thought he was going to be in way better shape, at least physically, than that. And he was over 300 pounds. And my business partner, Steve Yu, came down, and he's like the director of Resurrection. A lot of the really cool videos you've seen on A&E, on AEW, either Dylan Freimeyer, who works for us, or Steve Yu. You know, he's a lot of great ideas. It's a great storyteller. So he went down there and we filmed Jake, and I told him, you lose 20 pounds on your own, and then, you know, we'll bring you in. And 6 weeks later, he lost 20 pounds. We brought him into Atlanta, and there was no booze, no nothing, everything. And after another month or so, I think it was 3 months total, Jake had lost like 30 pounds, 35 pounds or something. And he'd been sober now with us for like that we knew about for 2 months. And that's when we got the call, a text from X-Pac, Sean Walton, and he said, Scott said he's got a gun. He's going to kill himself. Is there any way you talk to him? I said, of course I'd talk to him. And I called him. I'd never had him answer his phone ever in the last 10 years when I called. And he answered his phone, and he was just annihilated. And then me and Jake talked to him. And he said he was going to come up. And it took a month for him to come, but he came. And again, Scott Hall, you know, really, if you go back and look at my career, I created what the Diamond Stud looked like, changing Scott's hair, getting rid of his mustache, growing a 5 o'clock shadow. That's where he would, that was all the, but that's everything that Razor Ramon was. And it was like it built that character.
The toothpick too. Didn't you come up with the toothpick?
Yes. It's so funny. It shows you the way God or fate works, whatever you want to believe. We were leaving the Waffle House, and I grabbed the toothpick for both of us, and I had it in my mouth. I was just thinking about our promo, and I look at Scotty and go, I got an idea. When we get to the promo, we get to the end, we take the toothpicks out, and we flick them to the camera. And while I was cutting the promo with the toothpick in my mouth, it fell out. And I'm like, no. But it was really perfect because it would become, you know, Scott's calling card. And he flicked it in the camera, and the bad guy was born. I mean, all the promos that he would cut in WWE, he did in my 62 pink Cadillac convertible going down the road smoking a joint, because Scott Hall didn't even drink back then, but he loved his herb. He was smoking a joint and doing Scarface. Like, that's where the whole character comes from, which is pretty amazing when you think about that. And then he took it to WWE, became a monster star, and then he came back. And as we all know, who are wrestling fans over the Monday Night Wars, you know, they went through, NWO went through everybody, kept building people and going through everyone. The only one they didn't go through was me. And that wasn't set up by design. I wasn't a top guy. And I really wanted to be number 3, but it wouldn't have meant anything. It needed to be Hogan. And by the time they got to 6, I came up with the idea if they asked me, and I turned them down. And then you ask me again, and I, because we had a real relationship. I tag teamed with Kevin Nash. In Kevin Nash's Hall of Fame speech, he said, I owe my beachfront home to Dally. because there's many times I wanted to quit. And I would say, big man, don't let them beat you. You're going to be one of the biggest stars in the world. And look what happened. And so I came up with the idea of me dropping the NWO, and think about that. No one, no one, no one had touched the NWO in over a year. And I'm the first guy to drop them and take off through the crowd. I came up with the idea. They agreed to it immediately. And then they talked Eric Bischoff into it. So Scott Hall was very pivotal in my success because I was hovering at the bottom of the middle of the card. And I was a heel, and Scotty would tell everybody he's a baby face. He's a babe. Listen to the people. They don't want to boo him, they want to cheer him. And they loved it when I turned because it gave them somebody to beat up that the people were with. And so that's the biggest reasons that I brought Jake and Scotty, because they were so instrumental in my life. And, I'll bring guys in for a week at a time to try to help them heal their bodies. I had DiBiase and his wife, Mel. They came in for a week 2 weeks ago. I had Conan here last week. He came in for a night. He stayed over and we worked, and then he took a flight and he went back to the West Coast. I'll always take in the guys and help them, and I love to. I love to turn, Tommaso Ciampa when he left, when he broke his neck. Before he went back, as soon as he got done with their rehab, he came here and worked with me. So I'll always do it. My favorite thing I'm doing right now is I'm working with Rudy, and none of that's really out there yet. But Rudy, and anybody who knows movies knows there's only one Rudy. Rudy, I'd seen the video of the disabled veteran, Arthur Borman, and he tracked down a friend of mine, Roman Rosal, who's training to be a wrestler right now, who works for me. He had sent him the video, and he said, "How can I do this?" And he goes, "I'll get him to call you." And he hung up and he called me up. He said, "Rudy wants to meet with, he wants to talk to you about doing the program." I go, "The Rudy?" He's like, "Yes." I go, "Give me his number." I love Rudy, humongous fan. And went out to Vegas, worked with him a couple of days, and then he came here. He spent a week with me. Same time Ted was here, and I didn't tell Ted. And he walked in my house, and I was like, "Teddy," and Rudy's around the corner in the living room. And I said, "You ever see that movie, Rudy?" He goes, "Oh, absolutely." I go, "Hey, Rude, meet Ted." And he popped. So, I really feel bad for, Sunny, and because I really like to see her, help her, help her get where she needs to get to, because she was there. Man, she kicked it. She looked gorgeous. She was, when they brought her in the Hall of Fame, she looked great. And but that's the addiction, it comes back, and until you're really ready to go, I'm done. I say I don't know Marty that well. Buff, I will be calling him when I'm done talking to you, and see where his head's at. So, Buff lives, 10 miles from me. He could be over here, and yeah, I got to find out, where he's at, and I will be looking into that. But if Sonny wanted my program, if Sonny wanted me to talk to her a couple days a week, I would talk to her. I would do the same thing for Marty. But they'd have to get a hold of me.
Now, I read your book about 6 or 7 years ago, and my favorite part of the book was your bar days as a bar manager in Florida. I was wondering if you could share maybe some wild stories from those days as far as the girls and the party and everything, which you used to your advantage when you got into wrestling.
Dude, I was Diamond Dallas Page back then. That's where a lot of that character comes from. Um, the early days one. Um, I'll work in it this way. I tried to wrestle when I was 23. It didn't work out for me. In 1979, I had 3 matches, and I sucked. As you can imagine, I was wrestling, once to twice a week, learning. I had probably 3 months under my belt. I had 3 matches. And the third match, I hurt my knee. And same one I got hit by a car from when I was a little kid. So I took some time down, and next thing I know, I was running my first bar. And it's small, but it was a rock and roll band at the end with a long bar along the wall. There's a restaurant above it. The cool part was there was restaurant bars on both sides. So it was like 3 different bars you could go to in a half a block. So it became a really hot spot. And man, when I was 18, when I first started bouncing, and I realized that all the girls who I might try to pick up on in a bar, they wouldn't even talk to me. But when I had that Royal Manor shirt on, Archstocks, Archstocks Royal Manor shirt, it was so easy to get laid. Like, I was like, this is crazy. Like, because I'm wearing this shirt, because you're part of something that's kicking ass. And then the bartenders, well, they got like the whole next level. But the guy who got all the women, and I don't care if he was overweight, balding, bringing bad, no, not bad breath, but if he just had some charisma, he got all the women. And I thought, that's the job I want. you know? And by the time I was 23, I was running my first bar. And I went on a roll because back then, I couldn't even spell the word girlfriend. I wanted to have girlfriends. And I just wanted to be that guy who was with different women. And my sister was working at the bar with me. Uh, and I said, Sally, this month we're going to see how long a streak I can get going. you know, how many different women, because my buddy Patty, she lived with me and she would talk about how much fun she would have having coffee with a different girl every couple of days at the in our apartment because we lived above the bar. And I got to 27 nights in a row. And I'm not saying every one of those girls were hot, but about 10 of them were. And about 10 were not so hot. And 3 of them, the other 7, might have been 931 Coyote. I don't know because I was just trying to, people look different at quarter to 2 than they do at quarter to 12. And I was just trying to get that streak going. But I hit 27 straight days before I couldn't get laid with a fistful of pardons in a woman's prison. And I would go on to bigger bars and just have so much fun with the booze, the broads, and the party. I stopped thinking about wrestling. And I was so bummed at one point when wrestling blew up in the 80s because I got sidetracked with the booze, the broads, and the party. And I was so mad at myself, I stopped watching wrestling. And then one day, or one night, whenever it was, I was flicking the channels and I see Gorilla Monsoon and this dude with a leather jacket and a boa and a crazy do-rag and crazy glasses. And he just mesmerized me. He just his rap was so amazing. And I would learn that it was Jesse the Body Ventura. And I was like, this cat is cool. And then the first match that came out, guy had a bag over his shoulder, Fu Manchu, snakeskin boots. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And we all know it's Jake Snake Roberts. And that cat, like, wow. The entrance, the work in the ring, like a lot of these guys, that ain't real. That cat though was believable. Like he's not a cartoon character. He's the real deal. And I would be blown away by his work in the ring and his interviews. And then I got sucked in to being a fan again. Yeah, I never thought I'd be involved in wrestling again, but I wanted to be, I'm a fan for sure. And then I got this club in Fort Myers, Florida, and it is kicking ass. It's called Norma Jean's Dance Club. Now, I originally opened it up as Elations, and it was a killer club. For 7 months, we were kicking ass. And what had happened was the guys who owned the place, because they were paying us a lot of money, me and my business partner, Tony Cafaro. Tony argued with them all the time. So they were sick of that and paying us a lot of money. And they came in and basically let us go 7 days before Christmas. Now, that devastated me because Christmas is my time of year. And now I just got built this gorgeous club and someone else is going to run it. So I go back to New Jersey for the holidays, and I don't even know what the hell I'm going to do. And I get a call from Tony Cafaro right after Christmas. And he goes, are you ready to go back to work? I go, where? We had closed down a club called Babalu's. And it was a ripoff of the clubs that were very famous called Confetti's. They were, Confetti's was just as high-end a nightclub as there could be. And it was kick-ass party bar. So Babalu's was a version of that, and they did real well. So we opened up, and then we took all their business. He said that he had talked to this guy named Walter, and Walter wanted, he said he would sign the deal because it was only for 4 months. It was basically for the season. He would sign the deal, and for 4 months that we would go in there if I would come back and promote the place. And Tony said, we're in. And I went, okay, what's the money deal? And he worked that out for me. And I was like, okay, I'm good with that. Let's go back. So I still had my place in Cape Coral. I went back, and Walter has a meeting with me, and he says, how many of your people do you think will come? I said, all of them. He goes, I know that you'd like to believe that. He's like, but that's the hottest place from Sarasota to Cuba. There was nothing as hot as that club. And he said, so most of them will not come. He said, so how many do you really think will come? I said, all of them. He said, well, let's get together. Let's get everybody together. So everybody showed up at Walter's office. He had his big meeting room. And bottom line, he told him it's only for 4 months. We're going to look for another place, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is that every single one came, and I couldn't take everybody. So I told guys that were there the longest, that's who, I can take in this scenario, but we're not Elations, and we can't take everybody. But the one guy that I really needed was a DJ, and a DJ who I'd taken up from being a valet in the club. I'd taken him and had him trained by this guy, DJ George, who's the best DJ partier ever. And he said, he told me he wasn't going to stay. He said, this place is a dump. And what I did was just paint the whole place pink. Just to change the look, Pink the Sucker Pink Party. And I called the place Temptations. And they never liked the tagline I created at Elations, which was the hot one. And I made Temptations the hot one, where every second sizzles. And we opened that place up, and the entire town shifted over to my place. And I would never have believed it. The crazy part was DJ George, like I say, was the best party DJ ever, was staying with Johnny for 2 weeks. And George, I called him up. I said, George, back when $200 to DJ for 2 hours was a lot. Now it's ridiculous, but back then $200 was a lot. And I called George up. I said, I'll give you $200 a night. All you got to be here is from 11 to 1. I got a DJ in the beginning, and he'll close it out at the end, and he'll learn from you in the middle. And bottom line is, we kicked ass. And man, the booze broads of the party were flying that whole spring break. Elations put a monster lawsuit on us, which I laughed at. I was like, fuck you, the bottom line is they were just trying to freak us out and try by suing us. And the funny part was it was only for 4 months, but they didn't know that. So what ended up happening was I had to sign a no compete clause to make the lawsuit go away, and they gave me 10 grand to walk away at the end of the 4 months, which I was walking away anyway. And everybody on the staff knew it. They were all going to go different places afterwards. And the great part was, a year later to the day, we went back to where Elations was. We took it over, called it Norma Jean's Dance Club, and we kicked ass all over again. But this time, we owned a piece of it, and they couldn't take it away. And one night, I'm in the back of my office, and in the front camera, I could see who's walking in the door, and a guy walks in who looks like Jake the Snake. So there's 1,200 people in my club, at the time. So I'm not going to try to walk through the crowd. I walk around the outside, go to the front door, and I tell my receptionist, Judy, I said, is there a guy who walked in here who looks like Jake the Snake? She goes, yeah. She goes, everybody thinks it's him. I go, are you kidding me? I run in there like a mark. When I see him, I slow down, casually walk up to him and go, hey, bro, you Jake the Snake Roberts? And he says, who wants to know? I said, the guy who runs this place. He goes, yes. What can I do for you? I said, what are we drinking? And that's how my relationship with Jake started. And he never paid for a drink. And, when Tampa's here and Miami's here, that's 300 miles. Every 4 months, they were doing both towns, every 4 months. So on the way, whether it was Miami to Tampa or Tampa to Miami, Fort Myers is right in the middle. And Jake told everybody, we got some big mark buying cocktails for the boys, doesn't charge anybody. Man, the Bushwhackers, Ted DiBiase. I have a picture of Ted on that wall behind you. And I'm behind him. I'm pulling his hair back, and I've got a tequila running out of the bottle. Upside down shooters. we were going back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, your turn. Back and forth. I wasn't even in wrestling at the time. So what ended up happening is wrestling really got in my head. And so this is like 1987. And I'm in my club, end of the night. I'm grabbing the drawers, the cash drawers. And we're all going to bring the drawers back. Then the bartenders will come back. We'll have a few drinks and shots while we count money. But when I was grabbing the drawers from the main bar, I was looking at the video screen and it had a video, Girls Just Want to Have Fun with Cyndi Lauper. And that during that video, if you remember Hannibal, Captain Lou Albano was playing her father in all of his Captain Lou, the friggin', when you think about all the kids putting all the things in their nose and their lips and all that, the piercings, Captain had the rubber bands in his face hanging down. Like no one was doing that shit. He was probably really like the originator for doing, that kind of crazy stuff. That looked pretty cool. And in the video is at the end is Captain Lou, and they're dancing around. Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and Nikolai, I think's in it too. And I'm just looking at that video and I'm thinking rock and wrestling. I'm not thinking it. I say it out loud to myself, rock and wrestling. I should have been a part of that. And I walk away. And my buddy Smokey, who was the head bartender, we're all in there at the time. Everybody's sitting down at the tables and they're counting their money. And Smokey comes in. He goes, Paige J, what do you mean rock and wrestling? You should have been a part of that. I said, well, I tried it when I was a kid. He's like, seriously? He goes, what was your name? I said, Handsome Dallas Page. And he went, oh, you can forget about using that gimmick anymore. And everybody laughed. And that night we all got drunk as hell. And I just started writing on the blotter pad that was right at my desk. And I started writing Diamond Dallas Page. And then I wrote the Diamond Exchange. And then I said to the guys, I was like, I'm too old to be a wrestler. At that time, I was 31 and a half. So I'm too old to be a wrestler. But what if I was a manager? What if I was Diamond Dallas Page? And Jimmy Hart, he's got the Hart Foundation. I could have the Diamond Exchange. Ooh, shot, drink. And then I went, there's not many good looking women in wrestling. Miss Elizabeth is, but she's girl next door, beautiful. What if I came up with a whole stable of the ladies and I called them Diamond Dolls and they were stripper hot? And Smokey goes, whoo, that'll be a stretch. Oh, shot, drink. And bottom line is, I forgot all about it until a week later when it was a cable news network that was just on cable, and they call themselves the Party News Network, and they wanted to film the guy behind the voice, because the one really good thing that guy Walter, who signed for us to be able to get the building and everything for Temptations, Walter wanted me to do all the commercials, like me personally, like my voice. And that really would end up getting me ready for wrestling in a really big way. But at the time, I wasn't thinking about that. And bottom line is, they loved my voices I would do. And it might be like Thursday, that synthesizer voice, or it might be, ooh, yeah, hot legs, don't miss it, ooh, yeah, $1,000 cash and prizes, dig it, ooh, yeah, dig it. And I might throw Mach or whoever. And they didn't know because they saw the boys in the place all the time. And
Could we get your
at some
Dusty
point they asked,
to digress for a second? I love your
yeah,
Dusty to get the
oh,
Dusty.
uh, so when I first met Dusty, um, Gordon Soley was there, Mike Graham, and Steve Kern. And after I tell Dusty who I am and what I want to do, he says, "You know, kid, I feel a lot of, I feel a lot of Captain Lou in you. I even feel a lot of Jethro Ventura in you, and I actually see a little bit of me in you. So here's what we're gonna do: we're gonna make you the Jethro Ventura of the '90s." And I said, "Dusty, being a color commentator, I don't know a wrist lock for a wristwatch. Don't worry about it, kid. Gordon Foley gonna walk you through it all." So I I love doing Dream because God, I hurt him so much. But bottom line is putting a button on that thing. I do that thing for the voice. This they film me in my pink Cadillac. They film me at the radio studio. I'm wearing a WrestleMania T-shirt. I'm a fan, you know. And at some point, they get me in my office, and I'm sitting at my desk, and they say, "So where does the voice come from?" And Hannibal, if there's not a pair of white sunglasses sitting there, I probably don't ever do it. But they were, and they're sitting right next to Diamond Dallas Page, Diamond Exchange, Diamond Dolls. So I tell people all the time, just don't think it, ink it, write it down, burn it into your brain. I just picked up those sunglasses, I threw them on, and I said, "The voice comes from Diamond Dallas Page, did it? I was born to be a professional wrestling manager." And some guy saw it, and next thing you know, I'm on a radio show, and the guest is Captain Lou. Which, what's the odds of that? Bottom line is, he told me I should make up a tape, come up with something. I'm like, make up a tape for what? His name was Smitty. I said, I don't, I don't, I don't do it. It's something in my head. And he said, "You're a creative guy. You'll figure it out." And I made three wrestlers: Big Bad John, Rock Hard Rick, and Teddy Bear, who was a midget. He came out with the Diamond Dolls, and the bottom line was, um, I sent the videotape to the AWA, and they called me 2 weeks later, and they asked for Diamond Dallas Page. That never happened before. But I went right with it. You're talking to him. They said, "Well, this is Rob wrestling with the AWA. I want to bring you and your guys in for a tryout. We've shown the tape around. Uh, we've got one question. Everybody likes your shtick, but no one's ever heard of you. Where are you guys working?" And then I had to tell them that none of those guys could wrestle. And, don't call us, we'll call you. And 2 weeks later, Paul Heyman, back then known as Paul E. Dangerously, left the AWA, went to the NWA. They gave me an opportunity, and that was the beginning of it.
Now, you're kind of an expert with the ladies I know you were with Kimberly for most of your WCW days, but from the bar industry and stuff. And people always want to know, is it possible that Ric Flair has actually been with 10,000 women like he claims? You know how it is.
I believe it. I believe it. I was closer to 1,500. But Rick was on top a long time, man. And man, ain't nobody had Ric Flair's life. I've had an amazing life. I wouldn't change anything. But the Nature Boy, he's a different level, man. So let's just put it like this. If Wilt Chamberlain, if I have his signed basketball, I'm looking at it right now. If Wilt Chamberlain, one of the greatest basketball players ever, if he screwed over 30,000 women, as he said in his book, I say the Nate might have done a few more than 10,000. I don't know.
Now I know you guys have made up now, but I remember reading his book. I think he was the
Uh,
one that started the whole rumor that you only got where you were because of your friendship with Eric Bischoff. But you've already told us a lot of your backstory now, so um, I guess it's water under the bridge now. But where do you think that heat came from? Just his problems with Eric at the time; it was still fresh in his mind, maybe.
I'll just tell you where it ended up. When Rick had the book and was in control, I came in at 35 and a half, and then by the time I was pitching ideas, I was 30, and I tore my rotator cuff 9 months later, lost my job for a year, went away it went away for 11 months because I had to, I wanted to put on more size. I wanted to learn more. So Jake took me under his wing, and pretty much every show Jake did, I got a spot somewhere on that card. He lived with me for 3 months, and he always looked out for me, Jake. And when I went back, I was 37, and I think that um, I don't think any of those guys saw that I had the ability to do it, and they didn't. I don't think they really thought I was worth it. And looking at that, looking at it where that from their point of view, okay, I get it. Now I proved them all wrong, um, and I really loved the Nature Boy when I would watch it and how we acted to each other's faces was I didn't know there was the heat that we had, and then over time I said some shit, he said some shit, and about 10 years ago, remember when they dropped the big balloon drop with him? Um, that's when I thought I got to fix this. And he came into the green room and he got swarmed. He was red hot right then. And well, Rick gets swarmed anyway, but he was really red hot right then. And so I waited until everybody was gone. And then I looked at him and I was like, hey, Nate. He goes, hey, Diamond. I said, can I talk to you for a minute? He said, absolutely. I pulled him off to the side. And I said, Rick, I know over the years that, we've had heat together. He's like, oh, Diamond, don't worry about that now. I go, Rick, I'm not worried about it. I want to fix it. I said, I don't know how it started. I know I said some shit. I know you said some shit. I go, I don't give a damn. I said, I love the Nature Boy, and I don't want to be saying stuff about you. I sure as hell don't want you saying stuff about me, just because of whatever else blew up, about us. I said, I would love to start all over again. And I put my hand out. I said, I'm Diamond Dallas Page. And he gave me a big hug, kiss on the forehead, and over that period of time, we had fixed it, and it got better, and it got better, and it got better. And then I went into Hall of Fame. And actually, no, let me tell you this: when Dusty passed, Dusty and him, they did a lot of this, but they also really loved each other too, big time, because they both made each other bigger and bigger and bigger. But they really both really loved each other too. And you could say there was heat at times there. And somehow I wasn't anywhere near anybody because I just didn't want to be around anybody. I was I was really bummed out. And I walk into the hotel, and me and my second ex-wife are having dinner, not dinner, lunch. And Nate walked up, sat down, we laughed, we talked, and he went back to his family. And like he don't have like he don't he's the guy who buys dinner for everybody. That's just who he is. And I wanted to tell him right then about when he put me over for the world title. And I was going to thank him the way I really wanted to, but I didn't because I really wanted to make it special. And I thought, I'm going to wait till I go in the Hall of Fame before I do that. And that night, that afternoon on the way out of there, I made sure I took care of the bill for the family. And when I came back after that, after Dusty's memorial, he saw me walk in that hotel room door. Diamond Dallas Page, get your ass over here. Nobody pays for Nature Boy's dinner. Blah blah blah. And we're drinking and eating. We're eating and drinking all night long, and we did for hours. Seamus came by. Corona. Uh, um, Mark came by. It was a great night, and I felt like Dusty put us together. And then when I went in the Hall of Fame, and I got to the part where I thanked Nate for putting me over for that first world title, I knew it put me one step or closer to the podium, and I really appreciated it. And I wanted him to know that I did, and I'll never forget it. And 2 nights later, he he saw me going past the bar. And he called me in and he said, "Where? What time's your flight tomorrow?" I said 9:30. He goes, "Oh my God, who booked that?" I go, "Not me." He's like, "Well," he goes, "You're a Hall of Famer now." He said, "You still living in Atlanta?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, you're coming home with me." I go, "Nate, I got all those bags, and I got Brenda." He goes, "You and Brenda, check your bags with Federal Express, and you're flying home with me." And that's me and him outside his Learjet, Mr. Learjet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, kiss stealing. It was so much fun, man. He brought me back to Atlanta, me and my ex-wife, and then he found out it was my birthday, and he took me out for drinks and dinner, and so for me, like, there's a lot of the boys that have come out a lot. There's a few that I've personally was at points wanted to choke them out. Today I love them. I mean, we're like a brotherhood, and as you know, it's a very what we do. There's very few people who ever get to really do it on a broad level like we did, and there's very few people who are at the top that made it there. So I love Flair. Period.
I know we're getting to the end of our time here, but do you mind if I ask you one more question? The fans wanted me to ask you this one the most.
Sure.
I interviewed Scott Steiner and I got his version of that situation. Where he said you attacked him, and then he was trying to rip your eye out. So just to be a fair journalist, could we get your version of that event?
That's so funny. Scotty was just over my house about 3 weeks, maybe about a month ago. I work with Bronson, Rick's his nephew, and Rick's son, who was just here today. It was just tempers that flew, and Scotty said some things in the interview that freaking put me over the top. And when he got down to the edge of the stairs, I said, "You think I'm a pussy, motherfucker?" And Scott Steiner put his head down and he drove me. It had to be 20 feet before we landed. And when we landed, somehow I had him in like a fucking guillotine. And I'm like, holy shit, I got him. So, Breaking, now the guys are coming around to pull him off. Like, I got a hold of him, but he's, I'm trying to hold on to him, and they're picking him up. And then when they pick him up by all arms, Scotty was so fucking big back then, man. He was like, "Get off of me!" To them, I was like, "Damn, he's scary." Like, it was like a surreal moment for me, friggin', and fucking, I just fucking kicked him as hard as I came, and then he came down on me. And I was like, oh boy, this is a really bad spot to be in. So I went into the fetal position trying to protect myself. And I didn't, and they're trying to pull him off right at that point. And I didn't realize it, but his hand kept coming in, and I didn't really realize it until I went, oh my God, he's trying to take my eye out. And I think, man, that will suck. I finally stood up to that badass son of a bitch. And now you're gonna take my eye out? And I turned in, trying to bite a hold of him. By that time, he pulled up and both came up swinging. And I wasn't laughing at the time, but I was pretty fucking pissed. But it's like one of those things. Like I said, with just about anybody and everybody, I love all the boys, and you know, it was so funny when we had to do a sit down with Bischoff, and I walked in, and I never even knew. But like I said, when he was doing it, because I didn't feel it, that all these scrapes were coming across my eyes. I never knew it. So of course, later on I did, and I had little what do you call them, scabs, and it was like, maybe 5 days later, Bischoff put us together. Had to sit down.
We lost your sound for 10 seconds, but it's back
Yeah.
now.
Okay. And Bishop put us together. When I walked in the door, Scotty goes, "You don't look so bad." And then we sat down, we talked it out, and that was done. There's to me, there's no reason holding any of that shit. Guys fight all the time. It is what it is. So
Well,
I keep everything on a positive note, as you can tell. And like I said, Scotty was here at my house a month ago working with me, so that's pretty cool too.
Thanks for giving us your side. You've got the DDPY app. Do you want to tell the fans about where they can get that app and whatever you want to plug here as we wrap it up?
I just like this. Most people I tell them, they've heard about the program. They know about it. Just go to ddpy.com or ddpyoga.com. It's all there. And, I tell people not to listen to a word I have to say about my own program. What it really comes down to is go to Facebook, DDP Yoga, one word. And it has over 53,000 people on it. I didn't put it together. It has really nothing to do with me, except for they're all people who do my program. And if you want to get a really honest, non-biased viewpoint, go talk to them. And right now it's 7 days free on the app. So it costs you nothing to try it. And it's an awesome Christmas gift if you want to give it to somebody and let them get started on a program coming into the holidays. So there you go.
And I've seen all the testimonial, not all of them, but a lot of them on YouTube. And it's definitely a good program. I know a lot of wrestlers that personally do it. So one of these days, I'll give it a shot.
Well, one of these days, Hannibal, you're going to be so beat up and broken down, and you're going to wish you were doing it, because I would hook you up, dude, like I hook all the boys up. Like none of the boys or the girls, none of them pay for my stuff. I give it to all of them. I give them to I got to deal with the NFL alumni. I give it to all those guys. I give it to people who are entertainers that are on the road, whether it's musicians or athletes who beat their body up, because the road can be the hardest thing of all. But nothing's harder than the road and bumping. So my stuff keeps you healed so that you can keep moving forward. Hannibal, been your pleasure, brother. Have a great day. See ya. Bang.
Good. I'll cut it at that. Excellent.
All right.
Thank
buddy.
you.